I've just said you're in charge. I don't know what I'm doing. I just show up and hope that this works, and hope my story's not way too long because I'm a detail girl.
It'll be great, and thank you for doing it, Trisha.
Oh, sure. Well, we'll see if anybody actually wants to hear stories from me again after this.
Okay.
All right. So thanks for taking some time on this lovely, whatever this is, Thursday evening to share story time, or I guess I'm sharing story time, to listen to story time. So in 2016, August 2016, I decided I wanted to try for the Loowit Trail FKT. And I had done a very small amount of research ahead of time to see what that actually was, which is a little more difficult than one would think, or at least it was 4 years ago, because there were some times like on the FKT website, but there's also a race, so I wanted to look at that. And then there were some times that were in some kind of random places that I found. So I tried to look, but I wasn't like getting too researchy into it. So I figured out whatever it was at the time, which I have written down somewhere, and then I forgot to look. So my bad, sorry. But I think it was like 6:36, something like that back then. And so I was trying to run faster. Yeah, I didn't put a whole lot of research into it. I asked a friend who had run it if he had any thoughts on like where to start, because for anybody who's, I can show you a map. For anybody who is not familiar with the trail, oh no, is it sharing? Uh-oh. Yeah, that's what I want to do. Share. Oh, I got to push the share button. My bad. Okay, so there are multiple places where you can get to the Loowit Trail. So it's kind of up to you to decide which route you want to take. And obviously, if you're going for an FKT, you probably want to take the shortest route. But a lot of people take this route, which is kind of like the main route to the trail, and I believe the route that the race uses, which is a little bit longer than this one over here and a little bit longer than this one here. So after talking with my friend and talking with Uli, oh God, how do I get out of this? Stop share. Okay, wonderful. So after talking with my friend about it and talking with Uli and just trying to make a decision and not think too much about the stuff, I was like, well, why don't I do the June Lake one? That's the shortest one. I don't care if it's a little bit steeper. It gets me to where I want to go, because for the race, where they go up, the last part of what they do is the big boulder section. So if you're not familiar with the Loowit Trail, there's one section of big annoying boulders. It's really slow going, and I was like, that seems like something I should do in the beginning when I'm mentally and physically fresh versus something that I do at the very end when I'm dead tired and probably mentally just trashed. So that was the other reason for starting going up the June Lake trailhead. So yeah, so that was kind of all the research I did. And so we drove down, stayed at the Cougar campground, which isn't too far away. Stayed overnight there, woke up the next morning, and it was cloudy and foggy and rainy and blah. Which is the opposite of what I had hoped for, because like a few weeks earlier, I had seen people's photos on Facebook and how beautiful the area is and all these wonderful flowers and pretty views. And I was like, cool, I'm not getting any of this. What's the point then? But we were there. So we packed up all our tent and crap and whatever and drove up and went to the trailhead and have photos. So we did the obligatory, can you see that? Cool. June Lake trailhead shot. So there's me looking super thrilled. And then Uli with his watch, which you can see the time, but you can't see the date. That ended up really fuzzy. But I mean, I guess the date doesn't matter as much as the time to kind of prove like when we started. So that we started. Yeah. So it looked like this. Everything's cloudy. Everything was wet, which you can't really tell in this picture. But everything was just super wet and kind of ugly, but whatever. You know, I live in the Pacific Northwest, so this is normal, not a big deal. So we start running up, and we get to the boulder section, which is basically right at the end of the June Lake trailhead or trail. And so we're going on these boulders, which normally wouldn't be a big deal, but I had it in my head that this was slippery and I don't want to get hurt because I'm just starting. And I had fallen the week before and hit my left knee pretty hard. So I was also kind of in the mindset of, oh, holy crap, like I don't want to fall and hurt myself. So a little bit of fear just from that. So we're going, and I should also say that I was borrowing a friend's Garmin. So I think I had run with it once before. And it was like around my area, so nice flat open road, not very helpful except just to like get used to the watch. So I'm going through the boulder section, and I'm looking at this watch, and I hadn't switched any of like the things that are on the face, and it's showing me my pace, like my right now pace, and it said 28-minute miles. And I was like, I'm sorry, I'm gonna swear, but I was like, holy fuck, are you kidding? Like, I knew this would be slower, but I can walk faster than that. So how am I gonna run the time I'm trying to run for the FKT if I'm only moving 28-minute miles? And to make things worse, apparently that's as slow as the watch goes. So if you go slower, it just doesn't show you anything. And so I wasn't feeling very good anyway. It's cloudy, foggy, and nasty out. And I have this stupid watch that I've never used before that is telling me how bad and slow I am. So here's the boulder field. Here's how like foggy and stuff it was. And me like prancing through it. And by prancing, I don't mean prancing. I just mean trying to get through it. And with this watch telling me how much I suck. So yeah, I mean, clearly you can run and bound through this, and I wasn't. And I knew at the time, like, you can rerunning this, and you're just not because you're being a little chicken shit. Clearly my face looks really thrilled right here. This is definitely a great shot. So just to give you a little bit of idea, this is how things looked for the first, I don't know, 2.5, 3 hours, something like that. Yeah, okay, ooh, jumping ahead. So anyway, not feeling good. The watch is making me really sad. And yeah, I'm not seeing any cool stuff. So anyway, whatever, like I'm there, this is what I was here to do, so let's go. So I did, and yeah, I think about 3-ish hours in, I really should have looked at that. We got to the Toutle River, or we were close to it. And Uli so I was doing this as a supported run, which is why Uli was with me. And so the idea was, okay, there's not a lot of water, a lot of places to get water. So when we get close to the Toutle River, he can go run ahead and filter water. And then when I get to him, he can fill my bottles, or like he'll fill my bottles with the filtered water, and then I'll just take off, and then he can catch up with me afterwards. And so if I needed water again later, same deal. So he went ahead, and I'm running down, and he filters the water. I get my water. Nothing exciting, but I stopped for like, I don't know, 20 seconds or something, which apparently was enough to change my world, because shortly after that, you start going up this hill that goes up for a long time. I don't know how far it actually is, but it was a while. And so I'm by myself because Uli's still, getting his own water. And I'm like, I feel like I'm moving pretty well. And so I look at this dumb watch, and I never look at pace on trails. Pace on trails is meaningless. I could give a whole talk on that. But anyway, but I'm looking at this thing because it had told me before how freaking slow I was. And it's like 10:40 pace. And I'm like, 10:40? I'm running uphill. This is great. And so I'm going, I'm like, yeah, but I know that these things maybe, aren't so accurate. And I'm in like some trees and stuff, getting soaked, by the way, because it's overgrown and super wet. And so everything, like my shoes are squishy, my everything is squishy. So I'm going and I like check it again and I'm like, oh, it's still like right around there. Like this can't just be wrong for this long. And I'm like, and I do feel like pretty good. So I was like, whatever. I don't care what the watch is saying. I mean, I sort of care, but it's telling me good things, so I want to care. So I'm running. I'm like, okay, well, just enjoy this while you can, and ride it up the hill. So that's what I did, and that's what that photo is. So Uli finally caught up to me, and it actually took him quite a while until he caught up, which also made me feel good and also made me push a little harder, because I play this little game that he doesn't know about, where if he stops to do something, whatever it is, I try to like make it as long as possible until he can catch up to me without like overdoing it. So apparently this worked this time, because he's like, oh, that took a long time to catch up. I'm like, yeah, I was wondering if somehow I took a wrong turn. And he's like, no, you're just moving really fast. And I was like, oh, that's awesome, because that's what this stupid watch is telling me, and that's how I feel. So yay. So this is a picture of when he caught up to me going up this hill. I wouldn't say that these are the nicest shots of me, but here's some more. So as you can see, this is probably really pretty in the sunshine, and if I'd been really paying attention, this would be like sort of pretty, but in the moment it wasn't that noticeable. And that's my face. That's what I look like when I'm working hard, which I think is how I always look. I always have kind of a pissed off face, which I'm not pissed off, I'm just working hard. So yeah, so I've come up from like down here somewhere. That's a slightly less pissed off. So yeah, motoring. This is a great shot of my weirdly not wet little butt stops here. And then this is a pair of shorts I don't have anymore, but this is one of my favorite pair of shorts. And on some run long before this one, I got snagged on like a tree branch or something. So I kept wearing them anyway, and it had this really cool hole sticking at the bottom of where this fray was. So yeah, that's a little more about me. So yeah, that's basically, oh no, don't look, giving things away. I don't know the order as well as I thought. So anyway, running, and we get to a flatter section, which I don't have pictures of that at all, but there's like a flatter section that's very runnable, and I was still feeling good. And I was like, okay, I know later is not as runnable, so, and I feel good. So while this wouldn't be a very smart race tactic, I'm gonna run as fast as I possibly can while not like overdoing it, so that I can kind of, in my mind, make up some time from that slow, like 28 plus minute miles earlier. So I take off, and I think, I didn't look at the watch, but Uli was like, I think we're running like 6:20 pace or something. And I was like, I don't know, but it feels great. I'm moving. It's flat. And I'm not really looking anywhere. I'm trying to look at my, at the ground like smart trail runners do. And I'm going and I'm sailing along, and I'm feeling pretty good about it. And it's still cloudy, and I still can't see a whole lot. But all of a sudden, and I still to this day have no idea what it was, I am on the ground sliding. And I'm like, holy shit, I've never been here. Am I falling off a cliff? Like, what? I don't know what's happening. I don't know if there's a cliff. I wasn't looking at that. I wasn't paying any attention. I was just looking at the trail and thinking about, moving fast and doing math in my head, which is always smart while you're running. And so I'm going, and it seemed like forever. I'm like Superman on the ground, going off the trail, sliding, and I'm like, oh my God, I have my friend's watch on. And I was also wearing a bracelet that my mom gave me shortly before she passed away. And I had worn it on purpose so I could kind of bring her along, on this FKT that I had thought would happen. So I'm more freaking out about that, and then also wondering if I'm falling off a cliff or not. And then I stop because I guess you can't really see that, but my right shoulder, like armpity area, wrapped itself around this little tree. And so that brought me to a stop. So if you can imagine that you are facing down a hill and your arm is like hugging a tree and your feet are up behind you. I think maybe they were still, I don't know if they were on the trail or not, but they were up nearer the trail than my head was. And you don't really know where you are because you've never been there. And so you're like, what just happened? Like, I was running on the flattest ground of this whole trail. And somehow that's where I tripped on something and fell. I mean, it like grabbed onto my toe, but apparently not enough to let me just fall right there. It was just enough to knock me forward and momentum take me down, and with the help of gravity. So Uli's like, oh crap, can you get up? And I'm like, I try, and I'm like, no. Like, I feel like a turtle, except the turtle would be on its back and I was on my stomach. But I couldn't get up. I couldn't, my hands had slid on the ground the whole time and were all, I don't know, gummed up, and my knee hurt, and like I couldn't put my feet on the ground because they were like up behind me. I mean, it's so ridiculous. So he came over to where I was and wrapped his arms around my torso, like bent over, wrapped his arms around my torso, lifts me up, and that's the only way I could get up. I couldn't lift myself up. So the first thing I do, I look at my wrist. Okay, the bracelet is somehow still there and unscathed. The watch is still there. I think it has a little scratch now, but it only has like this little tiny scratch that probably he won't even notice. I told him. He didn't care. But I'm like, oh my God, I ruined my friend's watch. And then, oh yeah, wait, I was trying to be, running fast for this thing. So Uli, I have a rule. You fall down, you don't look at it, because you're nowhere near your car, you're nowhere near home, you're nowhere near anything you can do to like take care of anything if something's wrong. So you just don't look. Because if you see what's going on, it just makes it worse, because the mind is a tricky little bastard. So I didn't look except at my hands because they were really hurt. And they actually didn't look that bad. Like, they were torn up and they were like a little bloody and had like rocks and things, but not like that bad for how badly they hurt. And so I was like, okay, not looking down. And so Uli's like, can you run? And I'm like, I don't know. So I'm like, I'm sure I can, and I need to, because like I was moving and I knew that I was on pace. Like, I can make this still happen. So let's go. I don't know how much time I just wasted being on the ground. So he starts to go, and I try to go. I can't move. I tried, and it was so painful. And he's like, do, prancing up ahead, and I'm like, I had to yell up. I'm like, Uli, I can't run. I'm not sure I can walk. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I don't know. My knee really hurts. So he turns around, and apparently he hadn't looked at my knee, or maybe he did and just didn't tell me. But this is what my knee looked like. Hey, see, there was a little bit of sun finally. So a little bloody. And this was the knee I'd fallen on the week before. So at least it was the opposite knee. Clearly I'm enthused. I'm not sure if I had looked. No, I think I had finally, I had like more closely looked at it by that point. So here's a close-up. If you like that kind of stuff, you can see there's like a little piece of like a flap of skin here and like some really good thick blood here. Like, my blood's very healthy. But what you can't maybe necessarily tell is how swollen this is. It was really big, and I did fall on here too, and it was also, you know, kind of broken up and swollen. But this took the brunt. So yeah, so anyway, so I looked at it and was like, oh crap, this is not good. And I asked Uli, so where are we?
Like the other side of the mountain. It must be equal.
Well, pretty much. So he had a map up on his phone, and he also had his GPS on, and he looked for the little blue dot, and he's like, "You're not gonna like this." And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "We're literally halfway around the mountain." So we were like here, or somewhere in here. So this is where I scream the F word. Fortunately, nobody was there that day. I don't think we actually saw anybody. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. And he's like, no, I'm not kidding. And he shows me on the map because I'm like, not that I think he's lying, but I just had to see it for myself. I'm like, oh my God, the fucking blue dot is on the opposite side of the mountain from our car. And while I knew logically that this isn't possible, I was like, well, is there a way to like go over it? Because that'd be shorter. And he's like, no, there's no climbing route from here. And even if there was, it's not like you can go over the top. And I was like, okay, yeah, I know that. So that sucked. So I was like, well, I guess we're gonna finish this because I have to go halfway around or halfway around. So I might as well do the half I haven't seen yet. So needless to say, I was upset in many different ways for many different reasons. I could not even jog. I had to walk, and walking was really hard at first. And yeah, so that's what I did. So I walked. And you'd think there's really not more to say, but there's a little more to share. So yeah, sorry, pretty again. Now there's Uli. See, he's fine. There's us with the realization that my FKT attempt is over. Clearly, I look thrilled. This is how wet it was. It was so wet. So anyway, we continued on, and I was walking, and he was walking, and it got less sunny again, more clouds, more socked in. But we saw like these two elk, and it was super cool. And then no, that's not it. They're back here. But he took this cool video. The elk started to run, and it was so cool to see them run. They were like right by us, and then we're like, oh, we're gonna like follow the elk. And so this is Uli following the elk because I can't run. Because he wanted to get more of a shot of them. But it was so cool. They were running before we got there. So it's not that like we were purposely like trying to scare the elk. We're not jerks. So just heads up on that. And so we kept walking, and it turns out, and this is a terrible picture, but all of these things here, these dots, these are all elk. There was a giant herd of elk, and there actually ends up being, there are more down here. Uli got closer and got some more pictures. But yeah, there were a ton of elk, and it was so neat, even though they kind of just looked like little dots in here. It was really cool to see that. And I was like, oh, neat. I probably wouldn't have seen that if I was trying to, run really fast. So cool. So here's me going ahead. That little thing is me. And look, there's sun over there, but not where I am. So anyway, I finally got to a place where I could kind of like jog for 30 seconds and then walk for a while, and then jog for 30 seconds and walk for a while. And then I could do that for like a minute. So we slowly but a little more quickly were able to make our way. It's really pretty, not nearly as cool as everybody else's photos. But you know, this is pretty. I'm not saying that I was actually enjoying it because I hurt really bad and this sucked. But you know, it's kind of neat looking. It's different than most other places. So we're going. So it turns out that the Bigfoot was either, I can't remember now, it was either the week before or the week after I did this. And so there were trail markings, which good thing this was supported because I was being supported in a way I wasn't expecting. Not that it mattered at this point, but I thought about that at the time. But anyway, I don't know how you find your way without these markings here, or maybe you're just paying more attention to your surroundings than I was on this day. But it was really, really nice to have these, especially because everything kind of sucked already. So this made it a little easier and a little nicer. But really pretty waterfall back there. This is all like just kind of crazy rock and stuff. This is a nice picture of Uli. See, it can be really pretty if you're not in a bad mood and your knee doesn't feel like your leg's gonna fall off. So we're heading up to Windy Ridge here, and there's another really cool shot of my pretty shorts. And yeah, so there's like some more flowers. So this is like the prettiest part of the whole thing, and everybody else's pictures I've ever seen look all like this, except it's in the sun, and you can see for miles and miles. So at least I got a little piece of it. This is like where I was my most happy the whole day. I was like, oh my God, there's finally flowers. So it was really pretty. I tried to enjoy it as much as I could, but I honestly didn't feel that good. But look how pretty it is. You can't not smile when you're in that. Oop, that's like the end thing. But anyhow, so long story short, at the end, there's a bunch more other stuff to deal with. And at that point, like as I kept going, I could run like a little bit more and a little bit more. And one really cool thing was we could hear this coyote, but it sounded like a screaming person at first. And then we figured out it was a coyote, and we're like, oh my God, is this coyote hurt? Or is it just like the, I'm gonna suck in an animal to check on me and see if I'm hurt, and then I'm going to kill it. And the way we were heading was definitely the direction it was, because it was getting louder. And we were like, well, if we can find it, we'll at least check on it and see if it's okay. But it was just like the eeriest sound, and it was in like just the weirdest place on the mountain for all of this. It was just crazy. We never saw it, but we got really, at least auditorially, we got really close. So I don't know, hopefully it wasn't actually hurt. We felt bad because we could never figure that out. So anyway, we continued on, and I think we saw a bear, but it was like in a bunch of trees, and something moved really quickly, and I was like, I think that was a bear. And Uli wasn't looking where I was looking, so no confirmation. So it could have been Bigfoot, which if you've seen the, I don't remember who does it, but there's some commercial, Geico commercial. Apparently Bigfoot's name is Daryl, so just a heads up. So it could have been Bigfoot, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure I saw a bear. But anyway, so we're getting near the end, and like near the end of the loop is actually pretty crappy too. There's a lot of mossy rock, and on the wet day that it was slippery, and I was like, come on, like I can't slip. So we went really slowly, and I was like, Uli, we've got to be like almost done, or like almost to the June Lake trailhead on this end so we can get to the bottom. So he takes his phone out, and this is why I don't have any other pictures, because we were trying to make sure we save battery. He takes his phone out and he's like, we're like 1.5 miles from that. I was like, how is that possible? We've been out here forever. And so we go for what seems like a long time. And he checks again. He's like, we're still 1 mile away. And I'm like, that just took so long. How are we still 1 mile away? And it was just not easy to get through, like probably more so again, because it was wet and mossy and because of my knee, but holy smokes. That last mile, I don't know how long it actually took, but it felt like a half an hour. It probably was like 10 minutes, or well, probably not 10 minutes, but like it's probably like 20 minutes or 18 minutes or something, but it felt like forever. We finally get to the June Lake trailhead, and I'm like, you're sure this is it, right? Because I don't want to start going down something and have to come back up. And there's really nothing else around, so it is. But I made him double check just in case. So we get to that, and I start going down there, and I just rip shit up. Like, I was hauling ass, and Uli's like, what the hell? Like, where did this come from? I'm like, I don't know. I think I just want to be done. Like, I'm not thinking about it. Just go. Like, I just better not fall. So we ran really fast back down to the car. I guess we didn't take a picture at the end because there was no FKT to be had that day. But needless to say, let's see, I thought it was going to take me somewhere between 6 and 6.5 hours, and it took us, I think, 10 and a half. So,
Long day.
you know, potato. There's a cool after story, but we only have 3 minutes, so that might have to wait for another day. So that's my story of the Loowit Trail. Mount St. Helens doesn't like me. When I climbed it, I did not enjoy it either. And it was also a crappy weather day. So apparently I'm just not allowed to see nice views at Mount St. Helens.
You haven't run the Loowit again?
I thought about it, and for like the next year, I kept going back and forth on like, yeah, I need to do this again. I need to tackle it and, you know, tackle my fears. And the other part of me was like, God, I don't care. So I have not been back to do that. And part of me just doesn't care anymore. And there is still like a small part of me that's like, but you could do that. But I know it's gotten faster since then. I don't know what it is anymore. So I don't know if I could do it. And I would definitely need that external motivation to push hard there again.
I think it's in the 620s.
Yeah, I think it's like 625 or 6 or 4 or something in there.
But it's an interesting one because the race actually starts at the Marble Mountain Snow Park. So it's in between the Climbers Bivouac and June Lake.
Yeah.
But when because I had a look at the FKT site for it, and for some reason it's listed as starting at one of the two, and like it
says it starts at the Climbers Bivouac. Yeah.
And it's like, unlike the other loop trails, it's like from that point on the list of the FKT site, like it doesn't make sense. It's not like Mount Adams, for example, is like just the loop part. Like you can go in wherever you want. It's kind
right.
of FKTs are odd.
Yeah. Well, and like doing it, like I was supported, but doing it supported in a race atmosphere is obviously a whole different level of support than Uli like filtering water for me like twice and just giving me water. I mean, and again, there were signs there because of Bigfoot, which again I didn't even know at the time. So there was a little more help had I been running fast at that point. But there's still no aid stations anywhere, so it definitely would have still been like, you know, not as supported as a race effort. So I have a little bit of a difficult time with just saying support is support, but whatever, I don't make the rules, so support is support.
I just created a new meeting ID if y'all want to continue and posted it in the channel.
Oh, I mean, if people have questions or just want to see more bloody knee pictures,